Lesson number 3 of the TrackerRMS Academy is going to cover off working with job orders. We'll go through everything from finding and organizing jobs all the way through to creating placement records on the system. So first off, we'll take a look at the jobs section. So you can access it just by hovering over jobs. You'll see on the left-hand side we have all of our views, which will go through different filters on the system. So we can look at all jobs, jobs that are owned by yourself, any jobs that are open, anywhere from open to offer being pending. One jobs, which would be any placements that you've made. Bottom left, you'll have the ability to add new jobs by the quick link. You can search and run an advanced search on the system. Under Save Views, this is where I can look at any type of view or search that we've ran that we've saved in, such as your open jobs that are temp, open orders from a particular recruiter on your team, so on and so forth. Recently viewed records will display the last 5 jobs you've been in, so you can quickly link back into them. And then favorite reports on the right-hand side will show any reports that you have ticked as a favorite. So finding jobs we'll take a look at. So if you have just been within a job, 1555, of course you can click recently viewed records. But what you can also do is in the quick search, you can search by the numerical value. So if I enter in 1555, you'll notice that that will pop right up. I can also type out the name of the job if I wanted to pull up my Java developer role. I can do that, and it will show all of the matches that are on the system, and then I can access that job. So you will notice that it's the top 5. So again, if there are more than 5 different jobs, your best bet would be to use the advanced search to pull up that specific job. If we did that, we can hover over jobs, hit search jobs here, and then this is where we can type in a job name, and there aren't limitations here. So if I wanted to pull up all of my Java developer jobs, I can type in Java developer, hit search, and what Tracker will do is it will pull up all the Java developer positions that have been entered into the system, and we can look at all 32 that are a match. So that's just a quick way to find and search jobs. Now we'll take a look at our view. We'll open up all jobs and we'll take a look at the jobs that are listed on the system. So here, this is going to show all jobs that are entered in. So we have ones that are open, placed, so on and so forth. But typically what you're going to be doing is working within your open jobs filter, where if we click on open jobs, you'll see that now we will show our 21 orders that are currently being worked. So that's the quickest way to access your pipeline or your jobs that are open. Next, we'll look at just organizing and making sure you have the view that you want. So on this, we have all the different columns, everything from job ID all the way over to the preview eye and the favorite star on the right-hand side. The preview eye is a great way with any job. Instead of having to click on it, obviously I can see that this job is open. I can see that we have all of our information in, but I can click on the preview eye here and look at not only the job description, but I can look and see who's inside of that job and what status they're at. So I can get a really quick preview of that job without having to go in and open it up, leveraging the preview eyes. So in this view, I can also look at any type of filters. So again, I can filter here by anything from job owner to the status of a particular job or the work type. These filters can be applied or we can save them. So if I wanted to create a new view of jobs, I can do it right from this filter. One important thing to note is if we have filtered, let's say we're going to look at all of our jobs that are at a first interview status. If I hit apply filters, that will refresh my view and I'll only look at my jobs now that are at first interview. The important thing is that that filter will stick until you've cleared it out. So I would want to make sure that if I'm done looking at that view, I would click on the filter and hit clear filters, and it would remove that and take me back to my open view of jobs. Now that filter can be saved. If you save that filter or that advanced search, you would see it show up in your saved view right here, so you would have one-click access to that. The other important thing here is going to be the columns. If you want to move them around or customize them, you can hit the Customize This List button, which will give you all the different columns here. I can hit the red button to remove any of these if they're ones that I'm not interested in. I can move them around just by clicking on them and dragging them left to right. I can also hit the drop down here to add any additional columns in that I need to look at to be able to organize and keep track of my jobs. When I select that, all I have to do is hit the green plus, hit save, and it would add that column in. So for more information on that, you guys can look at our admin lesson of customizing and configuring your system, which will go over that more in depth. But anywhere you see this customize this column or customize this list button, it's a great way to quickly clean up and make sure you're working within the view that you like. So next, we'll go in and we'll look at adding a new job on the system. So if we hover over the Job tab, we can hit Add New Job here. Now when we hit Add New Job from the main part of the system, you'll notice that the jobs are going to pull through blank because it's not tied to a client at all. So you can definitely do it from here. We can just do a quick search to type in that company, or if it's a brand new company, you can add it by using the green plus. But a best practice is always going to be to open up the job from the hiring manager of that particular position. So if we wanted to put a brand new job on the system, we can go into Jeff Abbott's contact record, who's our hiring manager for Divine Chocolate. I can use the touch bar on the right-hand side, and what the touch bar will allow me to do is create a job in one click. So it will open up a job order on the system, and you'll see that it's automatically tied to Divine Chocolate. We have Jeff as our contact, and we automatically have the location pulled through as well, so it saves you a couple steps of information. So here, we'll put in our Java developer position. The company is where, obviously, it links to the company. The contact is going to be your hiring manager. The work type is where we can pick the different work types that you have set up on your system. So we're going to take this one and do it as a contract position. The job status is always going to start at open, and then you would move through your workflow of taking it and going from open all the way through to being placed, which we'll step through in just a minute. The business type is where you can indicate it as a new business or an existing client, and this can be tailored if you need to break it out at all. And department is where you can select from any departments you have set up on your system. Job owner is always going to default to the person who's opening the position, but you can put in a secondary owner and split out the ownership percentages for any internal processes. Territory will default to your territory on the system. If you are leveraging or using any additional ones, then you can change the territory right here. So the award date is going to be the date that the position is expected to be filled. So if this particular position you were hoping to fill by the end of March, that would be the date that you would put in. The contract start date and end date are really placeholders. Now these can have a default time. In this system it is set up as 30 days. So it will put that contract out 30 days, but you can change it when you make the placement. Contract times, you can indicate the time of the shift. This also can be turned off. So there's a number of settings around the jobs that we will go over in our admin video around configuring jobs. So if any of these need to be tailored, please watch that video to go over some of the basics. So moving down, the invoice start date is when this would be invoiced to the client. Again, this can be confirmed when a placement is made. The source is where we're going to indicate where this job came from. You can hit the green button to add any new sources if they're not in your drop-down list. Reason for status is where we can break down not only why we got the job, but the reason. So we can say extra workload. Contact role is going to pull in the name of the contact, and then reference can be used for any internal methodology that you guys would need. The description field is where you can paste in the job description. So here, if we had a Java developer description that we had, I can just paste that in. Now, anywhere you see these boxes, you can use the arrows to drag and make them bigger or smaller. So now we put in our job description. The field below is going to be an internal strategy or memo. So this is where you could put in any notes that would never be candidate or client facing. So you could say tough position to fill. Make sure to stick within the client's pay range. This is where you could put in any type of note like that. So the location here is where it will draw from the company. You can click the arrows to select if there's multiple addresses on there. This is also free type, so if I wanted to change it, I could just delete this and type in San Diego greater area if I wanted to be more specific, and all I had to do is do that. Number of positions, you can indicate if there are multiple positions you're filling. This can be enabled or disabled. And then the skills summary is where we can go in, and if you are leveraging or using skills on your system, we can indicate skills that we would want to search against. We'll leave that blank for now. The zip code can be used for a radius search, so you can enter in a zip code if you are looking for people within X amount of miles of the job. And then down below, we can enter in our pay rate and bill rate. So if this was a $50 pay rate, $75 bill rate, you can enter that in. The target margin, this is just a field where you can enter in what your target or what your margin that you're aiming for that position is. That's up to you guys to fill out or not. It is not going to be a formula-driven field. It is just a placeholder to enter in what your targets are. And then the value or currency, when you're opening up a job, this is going to be a placeholder for what you're expecting this to be. So on a contract position, you're not always going to know the exact amount. We do have a calculator built in when you actually open the job and start to put candidates in it. So this can be a placeholder for now. So you could either leave it at 0 if you wanted, or you could put in what you're expecting for that position. I'll enter in $1,000 for now. The probability is going to show off of each stage of the job. It will show the probability of making that placement. So if we hit save and continue, we've now opened up a job order on the system. You'll notice that once we've opened the job order, you'll have a job ID assigned. You'll have it moved into an open status. And we also have all of our additional options on the left-hand side open up. And this is where we can start to work through our job order. So next we'll look at posting the job out. So if you have Tracker integrated with your website using our integration documents, you can go in and put in all of your information, leveraging all the fields here. All you have to do to push it out to your website is hit yes, publish to your portal. And the code that's been embedded to your website will pull through everything from the job. So you'll notice our job description will pull through automatically. So I can go in and use the editor to style this up and change it if I want to have it look any different. So I can have it have a certain look and feel on the website. I can also go in and change using this editor to make it look exactly as I want. All the fields up top, we can pick what we want pushed out to our website. And all you have to do to have that show up live would just be to go up and hit Save Changes, and that would go out to your website in real time. If you are posting to any external job boards, you'll see Post to Job Board will show our options available. The top 4 are going to be aggregator services. So if you do have subscriptions with any of those, you can push out to multiple job boards at once. We do have an integration with Monster and Indeed as well, so you can push out to either of those services if you have subscriptions with them. Please see our setup video around configuring job boards for posting to be able to see how you can post out to the individual job boards. On the right-hand side, we also have publish to social media. So when you share to social media, you can put a post out on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn for jobs. Again, see the setup video around how to configure those to see how they can be pushed out. But all you have to do is click and it can put a post out on those media sites. So next, we'll go ahead and look at just the basics of the job here. So the profile is going to have everything from the details, the profile of this job, and then any activities that will stack up. The dates and fees section is going to show your values and all your dates if you need to make any changes once it's been opened. The job posting and specs section here is going to show the job posting, any documents and notes for that particular order. And then there is an other category here which has some additional pieces such as custom job fields and then some around revenue and products depending on your potential setup. So the shortlist is going to be the key portion inside of a job. So this is where we can run a search, we can add, and we can find candidates. So when we open up a job order, you're going to want to go in here and hit the Add Candidates drop-down. This will allow you to quick pick a candidate. You can add a new candidate manually. You can add via extract by picking up a resume and bringing it directly into the job. You can add via extract if you have multiple resumes you're bringing in. You can add a basic profile via a LinkedIn profile, but this is going to be just a basic candidate record here. Your best bet is going to be to download their resume from LinkedIn and then use drag and drop to create it into the system. And then you also have the ability to search Tracker and job boards, which is going to be your main search on the system. So here we're going to go in and we're going to, first off, we'll use extract to show you guys how we can bring a candidate directly into the job. So if we have a resume that's sitting on our desktop and we want to bring John Smith in, all I have to do is drop his resume in. Tracker will create that candidate, or if they're already in the system, it will update. So here, John Smith was already in, so it updated his resume and assigned him into the job. So if I hit close, you'll see that right away we have John Smith shortlisted into the position, so it's that easy to grab a candidate. Now, if we also wanted to go in here and quick pick a candidate that's already on the database, instead of doing a long-winded search, if we know that Tim Henry on the system we want to add in, all I have to do is type in Tim Henry, hit the magnifying glass, it will refresh and give me a drop-down list, and then I can grab Tim and hit assign into that role. So now I have two people that have been brought in. I can hit my Add Candidates drop-down, and I'm going to go out and search Tracker as well as our job boards to bring in candidates into the system. So an important thing to note here within the advanced search is if you've run a previous search, you'll want to make sure that you are hitting the clear search fields or the clear long list results option at the very top. This will ensure that you're starting from fresh. Now what happens is if I run a search and I'm going back in, it's going to keep those existing details, so you may get results back that aren't exactly what you're wanting. So in here, the resume search, which is going to be your top section, allows us to put in basic keywords and search from a resume. You can also switch to an advanced Boolean search where you can write out an advanced string. An example is below, but you also have a great eye on the right-hand side that will show you different operators such as simple term all the way down to some advanced functionality of running Boolean searches. The next section is going to be the skills profile. This is where you can enter in skills that are on your system. All I have to do is click the three arrows and I can select any quick skills that I want to be required in this search, or I can also make them optional if I'm not sure if they're going to be on all of my candidates. So you can run a combination of resume and skills to make sure you're getting the right candidates back. Under the skills below, this is where if you are putting in any skills that are value-based, such as a ranking where you're putting a numerical value against that skill, you can have it be equal, greater than, or less to for that particular search. The next block below, and this one we'll touch on when we kick off the search. This is the job board option where we can bring in any job boards that we have configured in your system. Radius is where we can search our local database for people within X amount of miles of a zip code. You can also include candidates without a zip code if they aren't on there, but they fit all of the search results to make sure they're brought back in. Personal details is going to have everything from a name down to when their resume was last updated. The activity details is going to search activities on Tracker and let us search for when people were last contacted within or over X amount of period of time. You can also choose the type of activity, or you can choose how many have occurred. The supplementary details search is going to show anything, and we can search from a particular status. We can search from any type of owner, or if they're assigned to a job already. One of the most important fields is going to be the status field here. So as a default, Tracker searches all active statuses in the system. So if you are using different statuses, You can switch to pull back only one, but the workflow is designed when you make a placement or when you have somebody that you've marked that you don't want to speak to, or you're blacklisting, that would not show up in your canned searches. But this is where you can go and change that status if you want to look at any different ones. The availability search is where you can search off of availability if you are updating within the candidate records. And then custom field search will allow you to go in and search any custom fields on the system that you have entered in, such as willing to relocate, and then you'd be able to select the values, or if it's a text field, you'd be able to put in the text that you want to come back. Now there is quite a bit that's packed into the search functionality of Tracker. If you take a look at the help documents that we will have a search legend, which will step through each individual field to let you know what that box searches on the system. So if anybody wants to know some additional details, please look at that document in our help file, and it will help you out with any fields that you're wondering what exactly they do. So we'll go over to the basic resume search, and we'll enter in some keywords here. So if we want to bring back candidates that have Java, SQL, and Microsoft, the way that the basic keyword search works is it will look for each one of these words separately. Now, a common mistake that people make is they would do something like this and enter in project manager into the required words. But what this will do is it will actually search the word project by itself, and it would search the word manager by itself. So you would end up getting results back that wouldn't be exactly what you want. If you're using a phrase like this, you would want to enter it into an exact phrase, and it would look for the word project manager together. Optional words are where you can put words in that aren't required in the search, but they are optional. And then excluded words is where you can put in words where if they're found on a resume, it would not bring those people back in a search result. So here, we'll just do a simple search for Java, SQL, and Microsoft candidates. We'll also go down into our job board search section, and this is where we can enter in the job boards that we want to go out and search. So we hit the arrows, and this will show the boards that have been configured. So here, we're going to use LinkedIn Basic, and we're going to use Monster to bring back candidates from these two boards. So I can collapse this down below, and you'll now see that I have the blue button to set advanced search parameters. So the job board search is going to allow you to use the resume search and then all of the advanced details from the job boards. So this will pop up your job board grid view here. So at the very top, these are my generic values. So what these will let me do is if I'm searching multiple boards, I can enter in details where we can try to assume that these fields are the same across all the boards. Now something like a radius or when resumes were last updated here is going to be a little bit easier, but job boards all have their unique fields, so that's where your best bet is always to go down below, and we can actually go out into LinkedIn Basics interface here, and you can not only enter in your search details, but I can have them be tailored to that specific job board. So I can pick the value that LinkedIn gives to us. I can also choose some fields that pull directly from LinkedIn. I can go out to Monster, and I can also select fields that are specific to Monster that will update if there's any changes that they make. So I can also enter in here my radius and select their view, and I can do it from the tabs down below. Now you also have the ability to change this to view as a grid, which will give you the same search in a grid view that you can look at left to right. So you can use either or. It's up to you, just depending on what's the cleaner view that you like to work within. So here we'll go back and we'll just enter in inside the list down below. We'll bring in our candidates within 50 miles of our zip code, and we'll leave everything else basic for now, just so we can get some results back. So at the top, I'll hit Save and Close, which will embed that advanced search in for the job boards, and I now have that lit up green. So the job board, all of the functions down below are going to be Tracker-specific search fields. Just because those fields might be completely different on every job board, you'll want to make sure that the job board details you're entering directly into the advanced search. Now, another common question we get is the search field apply button, which pops up over here. This is just simply letting you know that you have details that have been entered in. It isn't a button to click on, it's just an indicator. To actually run the search, you'll want to go up into the upper left-hand side of the job, and this is where I can hit save and match. I can match only, or I can save this search. So typically, you're going to be running save and match. So what it will do is it will run the search on Tracker, and it will bring back all the candidates into your long list, and it will save those results so you can view them at a later stage. So I'm going to hit save and match, and what Tracker will do is it will search and rank your candidates. Depending on the search that you're running, the more specific you're being, the quicker that search can run. But what you'll get back is all of the candidates in a long list view, which is essentially one page to give you everything that you need to source and work that position. So you'll notice that it's split out into two tabs. So the top tab is going to be your TrackerRMS candidates. The bottom tab is going to be your job board candidates, so you can toggle back and forth between the two. So first off, we'll look at our Tracker candidates, and this is what the match results at the top will show. So this is showing that you have 159 candidates that have matched against the job. The job board candidates are held separately, so this number won't apply to those. So if I look left to right in here, we have the ranking. If we hover over that, we'll see how much of a percentage of a match they were to your search. You have the red, amber, green. They'll all come through in an unmarked color. So this is where I can click to update as I'm making my calls. Yellow could be I've attempted to get a hold of them. Green could be we're interested. Red is not a fit. You'll see the candidate's name, their job, and then the owner of that candidate. The asterisk here, if you hover over it, it will indicate that they've been found in the most recent search. The current employer, if it's been brought in, will show here. And then the keywords will display and be darker and bolder the more relevant they are. You can also see how many times they've appeared by hovering over it. The availability is an editable note here, which will show the most recent availability note. If I click on the candidate, this is where I can enter in a note, which will date and timestamp. I can also go down and tick the box at the very bottom to log a telephone call against that candidate. So moving to the right, we have their email address, their phone number, and then the most recent activity. If I click on that activity here, I can see any notes and when it took place. Salary and pay displays the salary and pay details, and then I can hit the green or red button to shortlist them or remove them from the search of that job. Now the keyword icon here, this will show those keywords and what they were next to. The plain CV or icon here is where you can click on and see their resume that's on the system in a plain text format. If I look through it, I can see the keywords will be color-coded where they showed up so I can see exactly where they are in the resume. You also have a full document if you want to click it to load their full Word document, which will open up on your desktop. The calendar will show their availability, so if you are updating or keeping track of that candidate's availability, you would see it inside the planner. And then the preview eye will give you access to look at the full record of that candidate, so I can see any summary, any assignments, any activities that are in here. And then at the very bottom, you also see skills, and you can log activities from within that preview eye. So we'll take a look at some advanced functionality in just a second, but next we'll go and flip down to the job board tab. And what this will do is it will come back and show the candidates here if we have a match. So we have our LinkedIn search was too generic, so it didn't bring back any candidates. The monster search brought back 50, so I can hit the green button and it will show the results on screen. What that will do is we'll have all of our candidates that will come in based off of our search. We'll see them be ranked from the job boards here. So if we hover over that, it's letting you know that it was ranked number 1 out of the 50 results. We have the source of where they've come in from. The snippet will be their information on the system at a high level. The availability will pull from Tracker if the availability is in there, if they're already a match, or if they have it displayed on the job board, and then salary and pay will come in. You can view the resume by clicking the blue view link, or you can hit extract, which will actually pop up and let you know we want to create this candidate. To create them from the job board, all you have to do is choose whether you want to add them into the shortlist of your job or add them into the long list to continue to source. And this is where it will use one of your credits to bring them into the job. So all you have to do is hit the parse button, and that would create that candidate directly into the job. And now we can continue on working. So the other thing that you'll notice here is some of the icons will be lit up red. This is letting you know that Kevin Nichols, who's pulled up in this search, is a potential candidate that's already in your database because the name is in there. So I can move to the right, and I can look at the resume that's on file to see if we already do have this candidate in the system. I can compare it against the snippet of information, and then I can also look at our preview eye to see if that candidate is already in the system, where it looks like this is going to be the same candidate. So I can just move on and go down to the next. So we'll go back up to the local candidates, and we'll bring some of them into the job and continue to show you guys the workflow inside of the job of Tracker. So the other advanced functionality we'll look at here is if I want to dock this list, what Tracker will do is it will give you your candidates in a narrowed or a streamlined view. So as I'm working through it, if I want to look at any of these candidates' records, I can do a couple different things. So one, I can hit their resume, and I can have it listed side by side. So I can look at their resume as I'm working my way through. The other thing I can do if I needed to look at their full profile is I can look at Jason. I can click on his name, and you'll see in the background it will go into his full candidate record so I can look at and work it side by side. So great way to be able to look at any additional details inside the candidate record that you need. But at the very top, you'll see I can also hit Return to Job, and the background tracker will go back into that job so I can tick through candidate by candidate to have access to all the information. So at any time I can hit undock this list, and now I can continue to work my way down. Now it is going to display one page of candidates at a time, so you'll see 25 on each page, but I can pick up an entire page of candidates, or I can select multiple by ticking on the boxes here. And I can go up to my Action Selected Buttons record, which will show once those boxes are checked. I can assign them to the shortlist. I can send an email, which will take those candidates and put together a BCC'd email that you can send out. You can also build a template that you can send out here, where I can pick up a template from my folder on the system. And if I have a template built, such as a email to shortlisted candidates, I can hit preview, pull that template up, and I could send out an email to candidates in bulk. So for this one, again, you can check out our video from admin of how to build templates, but that's where you would send them directly from the long list. The other option is you can update red, green, or amber in bulk as well. Send a text message is going to be an optional part of Tracker, so that is something that is a pay-as-you-go system. So if anybody has any interest in that, it would be a separate piece. So anywhere you see that button, it would need to be added into your system. So we'll take a look, and we'll add in our top candidates here into the shortlist so we can work through it. So we'll take Jason, Alex, and Marco. We'll hit our Action Selected Records button, and we will assign them into the shortlist. You'll see that their color will turn to green. And now we can continue working the shortlist of the job. So one of the things we'll quickly touch on the long list is if I close this out, and this was a job that I was working, but I needed to go back into it later, I could easily access that long list by going in and hitting Open Long List, and I will pick up right back where I was with any color coding that's been in there. So the other thing that we can do is you can hit Back to Search if you wanted to change your search criteria or add any existing candidates in there. Now this is an important one because if I wanted to change these, I can obviously change the search here, but let's say I wanted to try to narrow down my search results. So those candidates are always going to be in the long list, so if I wanted to try to narrow down my search results from what I got back, which is going to be 159 candidates, I would need to clear out my long list so these don't stay in there. Because if I run a search using our Back to Search option, and I were to add in additional details, it's still going to keep those people in the job. So if I hit clear long list, what it's going to do is it's going to clear out my 159 people, and now I can run a search that could be a little bit more narrow to try to limit those. So one, I could go in and use activity details, and I could say I want to only pull back people that we've talked to within the last 2 months by any type of activity. And what will happen if I hit save and match is it will run that search again. It will re-rank my candidates, and now I'm going to go from 159 down to 20 candidates because of that. So it is going to be a new search, but now I can tighten up and work on a shorter list of candidates. Now let's look at the opposite, where I'm happy with these 20, but I want to run a different search and chuck more people into it. So this is where I would go back to search. I want to save everyone inside the job, but I want to clear out my search fields. So now I want to bring in people, but I'm going to look for a slightly different search. So I'm going to bring in Java candidates, and then I also want to bring in people that have project manager on their resume as well. So this is where I can do that, and if I hit save and match, what Tracker will do is it will run a brand new search. It's going to keep the existing 20 people inside that job, but it's also going to add in anybody that's a new fit. So if we scroll our way down, you'll see that anybody that's new is going to have an asterisk next to their name. So I can know that these are my people that have been newly added into the search. All the existing ones will be in there without an asterisk next to their name. So it's easy to add or call different search results together. So now we'll close this out since we've covered off searching within Tracker. We have our 6 candidates, or our 5 candidates that are inside the job. Now we'll look at working through the job process on Tracker. So first off, we'll look at sending resumes over to the client. But before we do that, we'll just do kind of a quick look at the shortlist table here. So again, we have all the columns that we'll go through so we can see all of the latest information on the system. You have all of your same icons all throughout. One important icon that I want to touch on is going to be the quick link to candidate records. So what this will do is this will go into the candidate record itself. So if I wanted to look at Alex's full candidate record, all I would have to do is click this button, and it would take me over to Alex's candidate record on the system. I can look at that, and if I want to link back into the job, I could go into their activities section where I can see all the job history that they're tied into. Or I could also hover over jobs and link right back into job 1561 because that's the job I was just within. So now if we go back into our shortlist, we have all the information here. So open long list, remember, is how you can go back into the search. You also have the selected candidates drop down, which is where we can bulk update candidates. We can send emails out to. We'll send the candidate resume in just a second. You can also remove them from the shortlist. You can assign them to another job. You can update records, and then you can disposition their red, amber, green inside the shortlist. The show button here will give you different filters you can look at. So if I want to look at anybody that's on a certain status, I can click that and it will only show me those candidates. You can also look at newest assignments or if you have candidates that have been extended. And then if people that are in a certain green, amber, red color. The type dropdown is where if you are putting in the type of candidate, this is a manual field to update, you can show candidates that have come in from online or from the add-in. And then customize this list, again, will show you or give you the ability to customize the list. So first, we'll look at updating a candidate inside of a job. So if we click on Alex's name here, this will take you to the placement record. What a placement record is this is anything that has to do with Alex on this specific Java developer role. So you'll have his general information, you'll have any financials, any activities, and then if you get to timesheets, they'll be in here as well. But this is where, for instance, if Alex called back and said, you know what, I'm really sorry, I changed my mind, you can manually change his status down to rejected by candidate. We can put in a note saying changed his mind, and you can update that information. So all I have to do at the very top is hit save and close. and we'll have Alex will be updated to rejected by candidate directly inside the job. Now let's go in and let's send our resumes over. So all I have to do is click on the name. So if I wanted to send Jason, John, and Marco over to the client, I can select multiple at a time, or I can do one. I'll want to go up into my selected candidate drop down here and hit send candidate resumes to the company. This will pick up your template on Tracker. I can go in here and grab my candidate or my client folder. I can grab my sending resume to client template that's been built out, and it's going to auto attach the primary resume that's on the system. So this is one that's indicated by a gold star. We will go over this in lesson 4 on organizing data in Tracker. So please check out that video if you want to see how to update the resumes on the system. So you can hit send now, but I would always encourage to hit preview. What this will do is it will give you a template. It will pull through all of the information that you've included into this template, and all you have to do is go in and update or change any information. So this is editable. So all I have to do is change any information if I notice that there's gaps or I'm not happy with what's in here, and this can be sent out. The summary or synopsis will pull from the summary field of the candidate record, so you can put in your write-up here to have that automated, and it will send out to the hiring manager. It will send the resumes, and all I have to do is hit send template at the very top. Now you can add additional people in the CC or BCC fields. You can also add attachments in if you want to pick up an attachment from any part of Tracker, or you can grab from your desktop using the Browse button or from the document library on Tracker. So all I have to do is hit send a template. Now you'll notice that there is workflow that's fully configured. So when I hit send a template, what it will do is it will update those candidates to resume sent. It'll also update the job to resume sent in real time. So now I have my candidates inside the shortlist that are all 3 listed as resume sent to client. I have the job that's resume sent to client as well, and everything will update with that information. Now my activities are logged, so you can see here our last activity is the resume that was sent over to the client, and now I can continue on working the process. So let's say the client came back and didn't like Marco. Again, I can update him by clicking on his name to go into his placement record. I can go in and I could update his status to rejected by the client. I could put in a note and I could say not enough experience. All I have to do is hit save and close, and I could update his status from here. So this is a great place where I could use the filter. So if I'm not really sure, I don't want to look at those, I could use my show filter, and I could look at everybody that's been sent, and I could say, all right, we have Jason and we have John in here. So this is where we'll step through interview. So if the client came back and said, we love Jason, we want to schedule an interview, all I would need to do is click on his name. So this is an important one with the workflow, that you're logging all the activities from the placement record. So one thing we'll touch on is under the Activities tab. This is where all the activities for him will stack up, and you can log a manual CV send. So what this is if you're sending resumes through a VMS or through something where you can't send the template, you can hit the blue button to manually mark a CV send, and it will date and timestamp it still. The other option here is to log a new interview using the green button. So a common mistake that people make is just changing the status to first interview. You'll always want to use the green interview button because it has workflow attached to it. So it will update the job and also log an activity. It'll also give you access to use templates for confirmations. So let's go ahead and book in our interview. It'll pop up a screen here that will automatically have the hiring manager, the job, and the candidate's information. We have the subject line, which will pull through from the job. We have the location, and then we have the start and end date of this particular interview. So if this interview was today at 11:30, I could book it in from 11:30 to noon. I can put in the interviewer's name, or I can change it if it was actually with somebody different. I can indicate the contact type if it's inbound or outbound, and then also I can put in the interview type if I want to disposition it as a meeting, a Skype interview, so on and so forth. The interview notes is where you can put in any notes about that interview. And then down below, this is where we can complete the interview once it's happened or indicate a priority for it. So all we have to do at the very top left is hit save and continue. Once we've done that, we'll see that now we have our templates opened up to the right-hand side. So we can send a confirmation directly to the candidate. We can pick up our template folder. We can grab our candidate folder, and we can grab our interview confirmation. Now what this will do is it will send an email out. Now if you have a job spec or a document that's indicated against the job, you can pick up the job spec that is primary. Again, we'll go over this in our lesson 4 on organizing data, but all we have to do is hit the preview button, and it will pull up a fully written up email here that has Jason's info. It has the date, the time, the address, and then who it's with. It also has a meeting maker attached that the candidate can accept. So when I hit send a template, that email will be sent out and logged automatically. So now we've brought in our candidate, we've booked our interview. So all I have to do is hit the OK button. The workflow and all the options on the left-hand side, we don't need to worry about because it's automatically attached into this template. So when I hit OK, we'll see the interview has now been logged in. When I hit save and close here, you'll see that the candidate will now update to first interview. And this filter now, he dropped off because he's at a first interview status. So we'll use our show button and we'll go back to all candidates. And we'll see now that Jason has been updated to first interview in real time. So now all we'd have to do if we wanted to complete that interview, we could go into our activities section. And now you'll notice here that this activity isn't showing the latest ones because this screen hasn't refreshed yet. So anytime you notice that, you can hit the recycle button right here, which will reload that frame, and now we'll be able to see that interview. So I can go into the interview, and I can put in our notes about what happened. I could say, great interview. I could complete that, and when we complete an activity on Tracker, you will have the green follow-up button, which is where I could schedule a follow-up phone call. I could pick the date and time of when I want that to happen. So if I wanted to call the candidate on Monday to check in, I could log that in. I could change the subject line if I want, and I could say check in after weekend. I could put in that time, and I could hit save activity and create follow-up. I've now saved my interview as completed. I put in my notes, and I'll have a follow-up that will catch me on Monday to bring that candidate and see how things are going. Now, if we wanted to book in a second interview, it would go the same way. So all I'd have to do if the client really liked Jason and wanted to see him is click on his name, go into that Activities tab again, hit the green New Interview button, and I can book in a second interview, which will advance the workflow. I could put in my date and time again. All I'd have to do is hit Save and Continue, send my template out to the hiring manager or the candidate from here, hit the green OK button, and now I have my second interview that's logged. So when I hit Save and Close, again, we'll see that the job and Jason will update to a second interview stage. And if you were to do a third interview, it would advance to further interviews. So all the workflow is built and will update in real time. So next, we'll take a look at an offer being put on the table. So if the client came back and said, we really like Jason, we want to offer him a position, all you have to do is click on his name. We'll go into the financials section, and this is where you'll actually enter in the details for the offer. So it's going to pull through the default from the job, but let's say that there was a slightly different offer on this one, where they came back with a pay rate of $45 and they negotiated the charge rate down as well to $72. So you can enter in the new details. The overtime pay rate and charge rate are just going to be a manual calculation just because there are many overtime rates. So this would be one if you wanted to calculate these out, you would just have to manually replace them. So if it was just a simple time and a half, you could just use your calculator to put in your calculations for that. So it can be exactly as you want. So if we wanted to put a simple time and a half here, we could say 67.50. And then if our charge rate carried the same, we could do that. Just put in a simple calculation and say we want this to be 108. So now we can break out any payroll taxes or burdens, so these can be configured. So in our admin sessions, we will show you how you can put in any defaults here. But for this placement, if we wanted to configure and back out California state tax, we can do that. If we also had a federal tax that we wanted to consider, and then a workers' comp code, we can enter all those in. And what it will do is it will break out your placement value, and it will show you what the total taxes and burden are, what your actual cost is, and then what your margin of profit is for that position. If I go up into the General tab, the other thing that will be critical here is the start and end date. So this is where we'd also want to confirm the assignment dates. So if it actually ended up being a placement date of the 21st is when that contract will start, but it's actually going to be a position that's going to run through the end of August. When I put in those dates, if I go back into that Financials tab and hit the blue Calculate button, you'll see that this number will jump way up because it's going to calculate it out over the length of that contract. So the other critical box is going to be the yellow box up here to tick here to update the job dates and values. So since this offer has changed since we put that job on, I can tick the box here and it will backfill the job dates at the same time. So if I go up into the General tab, now this is where I'll manually change him down to Offer Pending. I'll hit Save and Close, and this will update that candidate on the system to Offer Pending. If I go back and look at the dates and fees of the job, we'll see that these will also be reflected to our new pay rate and charge rate directly from that job. Now we'll go back into our shortlist. We'll click on Jason's name here, and we'll go ahead and make a placement in Tracker. So the custom fields here are a great way to build out anything that you may want to keep track on a placement, because these custom fields will be tied to the placement record. So if there's anything additional that you're tracking, the placement custom field option here is a great way to build those out. But all I have to do, if we're confident that everything we put on for pay rate, charge rate, and those dates are good, all I have to do to make my placement is change the status to on billing, on assignment, or whatever it's configured in your system. Go up and hit Save and Close. And that will update Jason into a on billing status. The job will also update into a placed filled status automatically. So this job now, if we go in and hit Return to Jobs, we would see it drop off from our open positions now because it isn't considered open anymore because it's been placed. The other thing that you would see happen in real time is it would disappear from your website if you were posting it because only open jobs will show. The last thing we'll touch on is going to be the scorecard that's in the system. So the other benefit of leveraging all the workflow on top of saving steps along the way is it will update to your scorecard. So check out the admin video around setting targets in scorecard in the system to see how you can configure this. If you don't have targets set, you will see all these meters blank. But what will happen in real time is I can look at new jobs that have been put on the system. We'll see our job that we put on, 1561 is showing as a new job. We have our one position here, which is our job that is showing. We also have down below any candidates that have been registered if there's new ones, but we can see our resumes that we've submitted today are all three showing. We have our placements are all showing as well in here. And then under the very bottom in interview performance, we can look and see the details of Jason, who we sent for a first interview, a second interview, and all these will update in real time with all the workflow of Tracker. So that wraps up Lesson 3, which took us through job orders all the way through to making a placement. Lesson 4 will go over organizing data inside TrackerRMS.